Every explanation of artificial intelligence agents falls into one of two categories: way over your head with technical jargon, or so dumbed down it's useless. This breakdown is different. It's built for people who already work with tools like ChatGPT, but want to actually understand what agents are and why they matter. I'm going to walk you through three progressive stages, each building on what you already know, starting with basic chatbots and ending with fully autonomous agents. Plus, I'll demystify those buzzwords like RAG and React that keep popping up everywhere. By the end, you'll know exactly what separates a chatbot from a workflow from an actual agent. Let's get into it. Stage 1, understanding the foundation. Tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude all run on something called large language models, LLMs for short. These are essentially text generation engines trained on massive datasets. The basic interaction is straightforward. You give it input, it gives you output. Think of it like this. I type in, write me a professional email asking someone to meet for coffee, and what comes back is a perfectly polished message that sounds way more formal than anything I'd actually write myself. That's the core function. But here's where the limitation shows up. If I ask what time is my next coffee meeting, the system falls apart completely. Why? Because it has zero access to my actual calendar data. It's just guessing based on patterns it learned during training. This reveals two critical constraints of these models. One, they only know what they were trained on. Public internet data, sure. Your personal schedule or company documents, not a chance. Two, they're entirely reactive. They sit there waiting for you to ask something, then generate a response. No initiative, no proactivity. Understanding these limitations is essential for everything that comes next. Stage 2, structured automation, also called artificial intelligence workflows. So we know the model can't access my calendar on its own. But what if we build a system where I explicitly tell it, whenever someone asks about my schedule, pull data from Google Calendar first, then answer the question. Now, when I ask, when am I meeting with Elon Musk, the system knows to check my calendar before responding. Problem solved, right? Not quite. Let's say I follow up with, what's the weather going to be like for that meeting? Now the system breaks again. Why? Because I only programmed it to check my calendar, not the weather API. The instructions I gave were too narrow. This is the defining characteristic of structured automation. It executes exactly what you tell it to, nothing more, nothing less. The technical term for these instructions is control logic, basically a rule book the system follows rigidly. Now imagine I expand this further. I set up a process where the system checks my calendar, then queries a weather API, then converts the response into spoken audio. Suddenly I've got a multi-step automation that feels pretty sophisticated. But here's what matters. No matter how complex this gets, even if it involves 50 different steps across a dozen tools, it's still just automation. The human designed every single step. The model is just executing orders. Quick side note on that term you've probably heard. RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. Sounds intimidating, but it's simple. It means the artificial intelligence looks something up before answering. That calendar check, that's RAG. It's just a fancy label for go fetch external data. Here's how this plays out in the real world. Platforms like Make.com or Zapier let you build these kinds of workflows. You might set up a system that monitors news sites, collects article links into a spreadsheet, sends those links to a summarization tool, then feeds those summaries to a writing model with formatting instructions for social posts. You schedule it to run automatically every morning. The key pattern, you defined every single step. Which sites to monitor, where to store the links, which tool summarizes, which tool writes, what format to use, when to run. The artificial intelligence is powerful, but it's following your blueprint exactly. Here's the limitation. If the output isn't what you want, maybe the social posts are too formal or too casual, you have to manually go back and rewrite the instructions. That trial and error process of tweaking and testing, that's you, the human, making decisions and adjustments. Remember that detail. It becomes crucial in the next stage. Stage 3, autonomous decision-making, the actual artificial intelligence agent. Let's go back to that news to social media workflow I just described. As the human orchestrating that system, I'm doing two distinct jobs. First job, strategic thinking. figure out the logical sequence, gather articles, then summarize, then write posts. Second job, tactical execution, decide which specific tools to use, spreadsheets for links, summaries of API, and writing models. Here's the shift that defines a true artificial intelligence agent. What if the model handled both jobs? In other words, instead of me telling the system exactly what to do step by step, I just give it a goal. Turn today's tech news into engaging social media content. The agent then starts reasoning. Okay, I need source material. What's the best way to gather that? I could manually copy articles, but that's inefficient. Better to compile URLs and pull content programmatically. Yeah, that's smarter. Then it starts executing. Which tool should I use for storing links? Word documents? No, that's messy. Excel? Maybe, but the user already has Google Sheets connected. That's the obvious choice. Here's the technical term that describes this. React, short for reasoning and acting. Every agent operates on this principle. Think about what to do, then do it. That's literally the framework. React, not complicated once you understand it. But there's a third capability that separates agents from automation, self-improvement through iteration. Remember how I had to manually fix the output when it wasn't good enough? An agent handles that loop internally. It generates version 1, then asks itself, is this good enough? Maybe it evaluates the output against best practices. Needs more personality, try again. Generates version 2, checks again. Better, but the hook is weak. Generates version 3, checks. Now we're talking, ship it. All of that happens without human intervention. That's the difference. Here's how this works in practice. Andrew Ng, one of the most respected names in artificial intelligence, created a demonstration that shows agent behavior clearly. The system is designed to search through video footage. You give it a search term, something like skier, and the agent takes over from there. First, it reasons about what defines a skier, someone on skis, moving fast, probably in snow, that kind of thing. Then it acts by scanning through video footage frame by frame, looking for visual matches to that mental model. When it finds something that fits, it tags that section and returns it. The key insight, a human didn't pre-watch that footage and manually label every frame. The agent figured it out independently based on the goal you gave it. The actual code running systems like this is obviously more sophisticated than what I just described, but that's exactly the point. From a user perspective, it's simple. You state what you want, you get a result. The complexity of how it happens stays hidden. Let me synthesize all three stages into a clear comparison. Stage 1, basic interaction. You ask, the model answers based on what it already knows. No external tools, no planning, just input and output. Stage 2, structured automation. You define a sequence of steps involving external tools. The model executes your instructions precisely. You're the architect, it's the construction crew. Stage 3, autonomous agents. You provide an objective. The model figures out the strategy, selects the tools, executes the plan, evaluates the results, and iterates until the goal is achieved. You're the client, it's the general contractor making all the decisions. Here's another way to think about this that might click even better. Imagine you're trying to make dinner. Structured automation is like using a recipe. The recipe says, chop onions, saute for 5 minutes, add garlic, pour in stock, simmer for 20 minutes. You follow each instruction exactly in order. There's no ambiguity. You're not making decisions, you're executing a plan someone else wrote. An agent is like hiring a private chef. You say, I've got 6 people coming over, make something impressive with whatever's in the kitchen. The chef has to assess what ingredients are available, decide what dish makes sense given the constraints, figure out the cooking sequence, taste along the way, adjust seasoning as needed. Nobody handed them a recipe. They're solving a complex problem with multiple variables in real time. That's the fundamental distinction we're talking about. Workflows need explicit instructions for every step. Agents need a goal and figure out the rest. So let's recap the key takeaways. Basic models respond to your questions, but can't access information outside their training data. Structured workflows execute predefined sequences you designed, connecting multiple tools according to your exact specifications. Autonomous agents receive objectives, develop strategies, execute plans, monitor progress, and iterate towards solutions without human micromanagement. The critical differentiator is control. Workflows require you to maintain control. Agents require you to surrender control. And those intimidating acronyms, RAG just means looking something up before answering. React just means thinking and doing in cycles. Once you understand what they actually represent, the mystery vanishes completely. If this breakdown finally made artificial intelligence agents click for you, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want more explanations that strip away the marketing hype and academic jargon to show you what's actually happening. Drop a comment and tell me, if you could build any type of artificial intelligence agent to solve a problem in your life, what would it do? I'm genuinely curious what you'd create. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.